For 10 years, I believed I was a father. Not biologically, maybe, but in every way that mattered. I was there for scraped knees, sleepless nights, school projects finished at the last minute, and bedtime stories read with silly voices. I memorized birthdays, doctor appointments, favorite foods, and the exact way his face lit up whenever I walked through the door. I never questioned it. Why would I? When my wife told me she was pregnant, I was terrified and proud at the same time. We hadn't planned it, but I promised her, and myself, that I would step up. I attended every appointment, held her hand through morning sickness, and painted the nursery myself. When our son was born, I cried harder than I ever had in my life. I signed the birth certificate without hesitation. From that moment on, my life revolved around him. I worked longer hours so he could have better opportunities. I skipped nights out, hobbies, and dreams that didn't fit into the shape of fatherhood. I taught him how to ride a bike, how to tie his shoes, how to stand up for himself. When he called me dad for the first time, something inside me settled. Like this was who I was always meant to be. My wife and I weren't perfect, but we functioned. We argued like any couple does, mostly about money, time, stress. Nothing that ever made me question the foundation of our family. Or so I thought. Around the time our son turned 10, small things began to feel off. It started with distance. My wife became quieter, more distracted. She guarded her phone in a way she never used to. She started picking fights over nothing. Dishes left in the sink. Laundry folded wrong, me coming home 5 minutes late. I assumed it was stress. Then one night, after our son had gone to sleep, she sat across from me at the kitchen table. Her hands were shaking. "There's something I need to tell you," she said. I laughed nervously. "You're scaring me." She didn't laugh back. She stared at the table for a long time before finally looking up at me. Her eyes were red, not freshly crying, more like someone who had been crying for days. "He's not yours," she said. The room went silent. "What?" I asked, certain I'd misheard her. "Our son," she whispered. "He's not biologically yours." I remember standing up so fast my chair fell backward. I remember my heart pounding so loudly it felt like it might drown out everything else. "That's not funny," I said. "If this is some kind of joke." "It's not a joke." The words hit me slowly at first, then all at once. She told me she had an affair. 10 years ago, brief, meaningless. A mistake, she said. She claimed she wasn't even sure the child wasn't mine at first. By the time she realized the truth, it was too late. I was already attached. "Already a father?" "So you lied," I said. She nodded. "For 10 years, I added. Another nod. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Every memory, every moment suddenly felt unstable. Like someone had reached into my life and pulled out a critical support beam. "Does he know?" I asked. She shook her head quickly. "No, God, no. He thinks you're his dad." I laughed then. Not because anything was funny, but because my brain couldn't find another response. "I am his dad," I said. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch, staring at the dark hallway leading to my son's room, listening to his breathing through the baby monitor we never got rid of. I raised him, loved him, protected him. And suddenly, I was being told that everything I believed about my family was built on a lie, but the truth hadn't even finished coming out yet. The next morning, nothing looked different. That was the cruelest part. My son woke up, brushed his teeth, complained about cereal, and asked me to drive him to school. He smiled at me from the back seat, talking about a project he was excited to show his teacher. He called me dad like he always had. Every word felt like a knife. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask him how it was possible that the child I loved more than my own life wasn't mine at all. But I didn't. I smiled back. I told him I was proud of him. I dropped him off like nothing had changed. The moment I got back into the car, I broke down. For days I existed on autopilot. I went to work. I came home. I cooked dinner. I helped with homework. I laughed when I was supposed to laugh and nodded when I was supposed to listen. Inside, my mind was unraveling. My wife tried to act normal too, but there was a tension between us that felt unbearable. Every time I looked at her, I saw 10 years of deception. Every memory now carried a shadow. One night after our son had gone to bed, I confronted her again. "Who is he?" I asked. She hesitated. "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me," I said. "You took away my right to know." She finally told me his name. Someone I vaguely recognized from her past. An old coworker. Married. With his own family. "Does he know?" I asked. "No," she said quickly. "He doesn't know, and he never will." That answer didn't comfort me. It terrified me. So many questions followed. Was he nearby? Did my son look like him? Had I ever crossed paths with him without knowing? Was he living his life free of responsibility while I carried all of it? I asked the question I had been afraid of asking. Did you ever love him? She swore she didn't, that it was a mistake, that I was the one she chose. But choice means consent, and I had never been given that. Days turned into weeks. I couldn't eat properly. I couldn't focus. I found myself watching my son constantly. His expressions, his habits, his smile. Searching for pieces of myself that might not be there. And that made me hate myself. Because none of this was his fault. One evening, while helping him with homework, he looked up at me and asked a simple question. "Dad, are you okay?" I swallowed hard. "Yeah, buddy. Just tired." He nodded, then smiled and went back to his work. That smile broke me. I realized something terrifying in that moment. No matter what the truth was, no matter what biology said, this child saw me as his father. I was his safety, his constant, and I was being forced to decide what to do with a truth that could destroy him. My wife begged me not to tell anyone. Not family, not friends, especially not our son. "He doesn't need to know," she said. It would ruin his life. But she didn't say it would ruin mine. That part had already happened. I began sleeping in the guest room, not because I hated her, but because I couldn't lie next to someone who had built a decade of my life on silence. Divorce crossed my mind more than once. So did leaving entirely. Starting over, disappearing. But every time I imagined walking away, I saw my son's face when I didn't come home. And I stayed. Then something happened that made the situation even worse. A letter arrived in the mail. It wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to my wife. And it carried a name I hadn't expected to ever see again. The biological father. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. I told myself I was respecting privacy, that it wasn't my place. But the truth was simpler. Fear had frozen me in place. My wife came home later that evening. The letter was still sitting on the kitchen counter, unopened like a quiet accusation. Her face drained of color the moment she saw it. "He found me," she whispered. That was all she said. That was all she needed to say. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I asked one question. "What does he want?" She sank into a chair. "He says he recently did one of those ancestry DNA tests. Something came back. Unexpected." He started connecting dots. The room felt smaller, suffocating. "So he knows," I said. "He suspects," she corrected. "He doesn't have proof." That distinction meant nothing to me. "He wants to meet," she added. "He wants answers." I laughed bitterly. Of course he does. For 10 years he lived freely. No late-night fevers. No school fees. No sacrifices. And now, after a test and a suspicion, he wanted answers. "What did you tell him?" I asked. "That I was married. That the child is loved. That it's better to leave things alone. And he said he has a right to know his son." That word hit me like a punch. His son. I walked out of the house that night and drove aimlessly. I couldn't breathe. My thoughts raced in circles. Every scenario ended with loss. No matter what happened next, something precious was going to break. When I came back, my wife was crying. Not softly, not quietly. She was unraveling. "I never meant for this," she said. "I thought I could protect everyone." "You protected yourself," I said. That silenced her. The next few days were unbearable. I couldn't focus at work. I couldn't relax at home. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart raced. Then the biological father showed up. Not at our door, not yet. At my son's school. I found out because the principal called me. "There's a man here asking questions about your son," she said carefully. "He claims to be a relative." I left work immediately. When I arrived, he was standing in the office. Hallway, mid-40s, well-dressed, nervous. He looked normal. That made everything worse. He turned when he saw me. "You must be his father," he said. I held his gaze. "I am." Something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, or maybe calculation. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," he said. "I just wanted to see him." I felt my hands shake. "You don't get to see him. You don't get to show up unannounced." He lowered his voice. "I deserve to know if he's mine." I leaned closer. "You had 10 years to deserve something." The principal intervened before things escalated. He was asked to leave, but the damage was done. That evening, my son asked me why I came to school unexpectedly. "Just checking on you," I said. He smiled. "Cool." That smile almost broke me. My wife confessed that the biological father was threatening legal action, a paternity test, court involvement. "If this goes public," she said, "everything changes." She was right. The question was no longer whether the truth would come out. It was when and how much damage it would do when it did. And I realized something horrifying. I might lose my son, not because I didn't love him, but because the law might decide love wasn't enough. I spent the next few nights researching things I never wanted to learn about. Custody laws, paternity rights, cases where biology outweighed years of parenting. Every article felt like a warning written directly to me. Love, it turned out, wasn't always legally binding. My wife wanted to fight it quietly. She begged the biological father to stay away, to think about the damage, to consider what was best for the child. He responded with lawyers. That was when fear turned into panic. We met with an attorney. I sat there listening as if the conversation wasn't about my life. "You're listed as the legal father," the lawyer said carefully. "That helps. But if he pushes for a paternity test and proves biological connection, things can get complicated." "Complicated how?" I asked. She didn't answer immediately. "He could seek visitation. Or partial custody." The word custody echoed in my head. When we got home, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried silently so my son wouldn't hear me. I pressed my fist against my mouth and shook like I was breaking apart from the inside. That night, my son climbed into bed next to me like he used to when he was younger. "Dad," he whispered, "you've been acting weird." I wrapped my arm around him. "I'm okay." "Are you sure?" he asked. "You're not going anywhere, right?" That question destroyed me. "No," I said, my voice breaking despite my best effort. "I'm not going anywhere." And I meant it, even if I didn't know how I would keep that promise. The biological father filed the paperwork a week later. A court-ordered paternity test. My wife collapsed when the letter arrived. I didn't. I felt numb. Like my emotions had shut down to protect me from something too big to process. I had to make a decision. I could fight to stay involved, or I could step aside to spare my son a long legal war. Both options felt like losing. I met the biological father once more, this time voluntarily. Neutral location, public place. "You don't understand what you're doing," I told him. He sighed. "You don't understand what I've lost." "You lost nothing," I snapped. "You didn't even know he existed." "That doesn't mean I don't care now." I stared at him. Caring now doesn't erase 10 years of absence. He looked away. "What happens when he finds out?" I asked. "When he realizes the man who tucked him in every night might not be allowed to anymore?" "He deserves the truth," he said. That word again. Truth. As if truth automatically healed instead of destroyed. The test results came back 2 weeks later. He was the biological father. I already knew that. Somehow it still hurt to see it written in black and white. Court proceedings began. Temporary visitation was granted to him, supervised, limited. The day my son asked why he had to meet a new friend, I almost lost it. "It's just someone who wants to get to know you," I said carefully. "Do you know him?" my son asked. "Yes," I said. "Are you coming too?" I smiled. Always. Watching my son sit across from a stranger who shared his DNA but none of his memories felt unreal. The man tried too hard. Bought gifts. Asked awkward questions. My son was polite, reserved. On the way home, he leaned against me in the car and said, "I don't really like him." I said nothing. "I like you," he added quietly. That was the moment I knew something important. No court could rewrite 10 years of love. But courts don't always care about that. And the hardest part was still coming. Because the truth was about to reach the one person it would hurt the most. The truth came out on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Not in court. Not in a dramatic confrontation. But in the quiet, cruel way life sometimes chooses. My son overheard a conversation he was never meant to hear. I was in the kitchen with my wife. Voices low. Tension high. We thought he was in his room with headphones on. We were wrong. "I can't lose him," I said. "I won't survive it." "You won't lose him," she whispered. "He's still your son." "But what happens when he finds out?" I asked. "What happens when he realizes—" "Realizes what?" His voice came from behind me. I turned slowly. He was standing in the hallway barefoot, eyes wide, confusion written across his face. "What do you mean finds out?" he asked. "Finds out what?" My wife started crying immediately. I knew then there was no saving it. I knelt in front of him, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might tear through my chest. "There are some things," I said carefully, "that are hard to explain." He looked between us. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," I said instantly. "Never." "Then why are you both acting like this?" I took a deep breath. Every instinct screamed to protect him from the truth. But the truth was already bleeding through the cracks. "There's something about when you were born," I said. "Something we should have told you earlier." His eyes filled with tears before I even finished. "Are you not my dad?" he whispered. That question destroyed something inside me. I pulled him into my arms. "I am your dad," I said fiercely. "I've always been your dad." "But," his voice shook. "But you're saying something's different." I nodded slowly. Biology doesn't always match family. I didn't help make you, but I chose you. Every day. He pulled back slightly, staring at my face like he was searching for something familiar, something stable. Then why is there another man? He asked. Silence. I met him, he continued, at that place. The one you came to, is he? Yes, I said quietly. He's the man who helped create you. My son sat down on the floor like his legs had given up. Did you lie to me? He asked. The word lie hit harder than anything else. We didn't tell you the whole story, I said, because we were scared of hurting you. He wiped his face with his sleeve. But it hurts now. That night he didn't want a bedtime story. He didn't want dinner. He didn't want to talk. He locked himself in his room. And for the first time in 10 years, I didn't know how to help him. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. He became quieter, guarded. He asked questions that had no good answers. Why didn't you tell me? Am I a mistake? Who am I supposed to call my real dad? Every question felt like another cut. The biological father tried harder. More gifts, more visits, more pressure. He talked about future plans like he was entitled to them. My son pulled further away from him with each attempt. One evening, after a supervised visit, my son came home angry. He keeps saying he's my real dad, he said. Are you not real? I knelt in front of him again. Real is who shows up, I said. Real is who loves you when it's hard. He stared at me for a long time. Then I choose you, he said. Those words saved me, but the legal fight wasn't over. Court decisions were pending. Recommendations were being written. My wife and I separated quietly during that time, not out of hatred, but because trust doesn't survive secrets like that. The judge eventually ruled in favor of shared visitation. The biological father gained limited rights, but something unexpected happened. My son spoke, in a room full of adults deciding his future. He asked to say something. He looked straight at the judge. I already have a dad, he said. He's the one who raised me. The room went silent. The ruling didn't erase the biological father, but it protected me. I didn't lose my son. And years later, when he was older, he said something I'll never forget. You weren't my father by blood, he said. You were my father by choice. And that mattered more. I raised a child for 10 years. Then the truth came out. And instead of losing him, I learned what being a real parent truly meant.